This is the Spiritual Discussion Program. I'm in Southeast London, and with me, as usual, is Gregory. How are you doing, Gregory?
Showers here.
Okay, here in London it is overcast right now. We did have showers in the morning, and I will call it mild, not too warm. So welcome listeners to the Spiritual Discussion Program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Aprushi. And every week we have a topic for discussion. The topic for tonight is Woman and Her Vocation. Woman and Her Vocation, that's the topic for tonight. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is blessradio1, that's the number one, .com. If you scroll down on the home page, you'll come across a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. I'm going to begin with what is the Grail Message. The Grail Message in the Light of Truth by Aprushi is a spiritual knowledge of life. It offers an explanation of the world, a picture of creation on the basis of natural laws. Its lectures contain valuable basic elements as a help in life. For through the knowledge mediated, the reader is again brought closer to life and led back to God. The Grail Message deals with important fundamental questions of life by explaining in a clear and logical way the automatic working of the laws of nature, the whole weaving of creation, allowing every process to be recognized, and thereby the purpose of our whole life. It is directed at the individual and speaks to the innate experiences of the human being, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, every reader has the opportunity to discover through the intuitive perception if what is stated is the truth. Combining with matter-of-fact reasoning, a complete world picture arises, where there is no separation between the visible world and the great world beyond the five senses, nor any separation between scientific and religious striving for knowledge. I'd like to give you a couple of quotes from the author of the Grail Message, Aprushi. The hearer and reader of my lectures should always work within himself, keenly probing and building bridges from one lecture to the other, as well as out into the great and small world happenings. Only then will he be able to understand the Grail Message and find that it gradually shapes itself into one complete whole without leaving any gaps. Again and again, in all the happenings, the reader will come back to the basic features. He can explain everything without having to change even one single sentence. The word of the Grail Message lives, so that it permits only those people who really carry the honest desire in their souls to find abundantly. All else is automatically rejected by it. or the arrogant, and those who seek superficially, the message will remain the book with 7 seals. And I'd like to give you one more quote from the author. I wish to fill the gaps which have so far always remained unanswered in the souls of men, and which never leave any serious thinker in peace, if he earnestly seeks for the truth. So, dear listeners, just to remind you, the topic that we are discussing tonight is woman and her vocation. Woman and her vocation. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1.com. If you scroll down on the homepage, you'll come across a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. Dear listeners and Gregory, as usual, I like to look up the meaning of the words in the topic in the dictionary. So the topic again is woman and her vocation. So obviously the first word is woman. And here in the dictionary, I found this meaning. It says an adult human who is female. While traditionally understood, well, I'm going to leave the rest of it actually, because that's enough, I would say. So let me say that again. So a woman is, definition is an adult human who is female. Gregory, how is this definition?
That is sufficient for one to use within the current circumstances. Only later can we go in deeper into it.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. So the next word we have really is vocation. And there, the meaning I've got is, in the dictionary, that is, a vocation is a strong inner calling to a particular career, purpose, or way of life. Let me repeat that. Vocation is a strong inner calling to a particular career, purpose, or way of life. How's that one, Gregory?
There are some expressions which are good pointers, but it doesn't suffice to use as such.
Okay, let me, Gregory, in this meaning, they went a bit further. So let me see if that helps. They say it's stemming from the Latin word vocare, which means to call, and it says it bridges the gap between what you love doing, what you are good at, and how you can serve others. Let me repeat that. So this word vocation, it's coming from the Latin word vocare, meaning to call, and it bridges the gap between what you love doing, what you are good at, and how you can serve others. So, Gregory, is that any helpful there?
Again, these are descriptions which are partially helpful, but it doesn't doesn't explain the main thing, which should be expected.
So, that's fine. In fact, nowadays, because of the AI out there, which, let's say, does a bit of research on our behalf, you can say, although we can't rely on it 100%, we know that. So I looked up the whole topic, which is woman and her vocation, and it came up with this. The phrase woman and her vocation refers historically and philosophically to the distinct calling, purpose, and contribution of women in society, family, and spiritual life. While historically framed around traditional familial expectations, modern discourse spans from historical feminine. Oh dear, this is a bit too. How can I say? Let me leave that out. I'm going to summarize my own way because it's getting a bit too high language. And let me make it simple. So I'll repeat the first part. Let me repeat this. So the AI is telling me woman and her vocation refers historically and philosophically to the distinct calling, purpose, and contribution of women in society, family, and spiritual life. Let's look at that, Gregory. Is that something relevant there?
These are pointers, several pointers.
Okay. And the second one, sorry, yeah.
Go on.
I'm going to put my own summary of the second part of this, what Google AI is saying. I'm going to say it is women's fulfillment can be realized across diverse. Let me know. Even that I don't like it. I'm sorry. Let me leave that out. I don't think I want to go there. Google is doing like a how can I say thief. So when people do a doctorate or something, and it gets too technical, I'm going to say that. So I don't want to go to that level. It's not necessary for us to get to that level. Okay, let us move on. So, Gregory, I know in a way the dictionary has said something, but I want to just say this question anyway. So, Gregory, what is woman? Is it just a female of the human species? That's what we've sort of said already. Is there something more we can say about that? What is woman?
That definition which is given, which is the female sex, that's, yes, superficially, yes. What has been lacking in any language as such is the reference framework. The reference framework as expressed through nature or in creation. Once that is lacking, then it will be descriptions upon descriptions without any precision. And that is why you find just description, but the essence of what woman is in accordance to this reference framework, which is basically in accordance with the laws of creation, that is what needs to be discussed. From that point of view, from that reference framework, then each individual will have clarity on what the vocation of the woman is.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for bringing that out, saying that we need to look at the reference framework in the terms of nature and creation. So woman in that context. And up till this moment, we've talked about the human woman, you can say, which of course applies only to human beings. And yet we know there are female beings, let's say, in the animal world. Of course, there's male and female in the animal world. From, let's say, religious context, we hear about angels. Mostly the angel we've always heard is a male angel, but that doesn't by default mean that it can only be the male angel. But maybe that's what, so that's, how can I say, another category there. I'm just trying to think if there's any other place we would have heard of the female there. So Gregory, let's go to that point of what you say, creation, in the context of creation. How can we define woman in the context of creation? So, yes, can you help us with that?
In that particular scenario, one must look at the activities of the female species and also of the male species. If one examines them very carefully, if you come, say, to the earth, you limit your perspective to the earth, one finds that the activities of the man and that of the woman, they are complementary. So that's the first big point. They are complementary. They are complementary for continuity. Because they are complementary for continuity, then one can already see that the efforts, the activities of the woman is essential. Because without that, basically in the case of, typical in the case of motherhood, there will be no continuity here on earth of the human species. So that becomes so essential. And at the same time, one can already start guessing how, when children are involved, the role that the woman must have played before the coming or before the incarnation of a particular child. That, in that particular scenario, that is here on earth, where the physical body and the incarnation of male or female is concerned. Then one must must reason intuitively. And as one can easily perceive, just as the woman is the one who guides the individual, male or female, to incarnate on earth, in other areas, she also is a guide. That expression guide is taken specially because the one who guides must be a little step above the one who is guided. When you have that the one who guides is a little step above, so you will find that the person who is being guided will want to protect that channel of guidance. That being the case, many can now understand why many other people, male or female, look up to the channel through which many a guidance comes through. So on a spiritual level or on an intuitive level, womanhood is like one step or half a step above. Half a step above because the activity of the man and the activities of the woman, they complement. One may put it in a different fashion and say, it is as if the woman receives of the radiations which are in nature, which are in creation. In accordance with the laws, these reference laws of creation of nature, he or she who receives must make use of it, must mediate that radiation which has been received, must mediate these radiations in purity. That means these radiations may not be distorted. Pass on these radiations to the one who is a bit dense, who is one step below, to make use of. So, from the simple picture painted, one can see that is referred to as a woman is that personality that is one step or half a step higher, who has plenty of rich intuitive perceptions, which rich intuitive perceptions are to be mediated to the man for fulfillment. In that particular case, as long as they are mediated in purity, the man senses that which needs to be done and goes on to fulfillment. Basically, one can already sense the vocation of the woman from that very simple picture.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for this very broad, how can I say, not really definition, but the role and the activity of the woman that you have given. I must say it's an eye-opener to what many people probably are aware. Probably because they're thinking from the earthly point of view, which is not quite understandable since we are on the earth. You gave one of the, you could say, activities is motherhood, which is very essential, as you say. But that's not all. You say about guiding. You mentioned about guiding. So, again, that may not have been obvious. I mean, we can imagine, a mother guiding a child. Yes, that's understandable as well. But then you could think, man can do that as well. Why should it only be woman, only guiding man, guiding? So that's, in fact, so when you were talking, a lot of questions came into me about what about the man? What's the role of the man? I know the topic is tonight woman and her vocation. Of course it is, and I don't want to deviate from it. But then the question will arise about the man and the difference of what is man role compared to the difference of what the role of the woman and the role of the man. In the sense, it obviously seems there are different. There's something different there. At least you're implying that. So, okay. As I said, 100 questions are coming up in my head about this. And Gregory, there's another point you were giving. We are focused, let's say, in general about earthly activities, which, of course, we are very familiar with. You mentioned about motherhood of the woman in this case, and then there's male activity as well. Man, they also their activity, and it's clear that there are some differences. And in fact, you also mentioned about being complementary. The woman and the man are complementary in their activity. So that was a very big. How can I say, important. Now, what comes in my mind, Gregory, when you say all these things, there are differences, as I've been pointing, about the male and the female, woman and man. And with the motherhood, for example, on the earth, obviously a woman's body is different from the man, because of the activity that needs to happen with motherhood or let's say parenthood, involving the man as well. So that is clear. Then one is wondering if the other, so that is a physical difference in the body, between man and woman. And then one wonders, Gregory, are there other differences which are non-physical between the man and the woman? So can you help us with that now?
You were saying if there are non-physical differences?
Non-physical. Yes. You talked about, we know the motherhood, for example, that is only the woman can do that. So obviously her body is designed for that, and the male is designed, for his part of it. And then, but what are there other differences between the man and the woman?
But what there was this point which was made that there's this guidance, and the guide is about half a step higher than the one who is being guided, particularly here on earth. But that in itself, that word guidance already presents a picture of the standing between the person who does the guidance and the one who is being guided. That individual who does the guidance, who is half a step ahead, is more refined, or one may say is more intuitive, whereas the other who is being guided, who works with the woman in a complementary way, is more like an executive to execute the blessings which has been passed on from the woman, who is able to perceive higher because of her nature. It is just not only in her physical body, but in her soul. The vibrations of her soul have been so configured to be able to perceive of that which is of the will of the Almighty, and to draw the strength from there and pass on to the man, who will now, like a chief executive, proceed to ensure that these things are realized. So one can already have a picture. That individual who is able to perceive the higher things ennobles the environment in conjunction with the man who carries out the final ennoblement. So the task of the woman, basically, or the calling, is to ennoble her environment through the process of perceiving what the will of the Almighty is, and in purity passing on these radiations which she has received, because she is more sensitive, passing these things on to the man to actualize. So one can already perceive what's the task or the calling of a woman in accordance with this reference framework, which are the laws of creation, the laws of nature. And that is one of the basic reasons why you find that many individuals that need to incarnate had to come through the woman and not through the man.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for this answer and the picture you're painting for us in the activity of woman and man, whereby you have pointed out that the woman is receiving radiations from creation and passing it down to the man and guiding it towards the man, and then there's a type of activity, let's say, where I'll say it in this way, but not necessarily exactly I mean this, but so let's say the ideas are being received, although man is not, how can I say, man can also receive ideas, but let's say woman is, in this case, passing down ideas. I'm using the word idea, but let's say the real word would be guidance. That probably is the more correct word, down towards the man, and then man is implementing it in the physical sense. I mean, the woman also can do it, but it is not that there's some limitation in this, but there's a way this is meant to work, like complementary, as you said, Gregory. So woman receives, let's say, message, and then she forwards it to the man who makes it manifest on the earth. And that's, I know we're being very general in the way we talking about it, because we want to get this concept, let's say, understood correctly, because we can go into more detail on this point, but first is to get the right conception. So something is being received by the woman, and that is being passed down to the man to implement. That's and on the earthly level, let's say like that. Just to check with you, Gregory, what I've said, is that fine, or is there something you want to say about it?
That's more of an approximate picture. The idea is to go step by step or little step by little step. Else, the possibility of mingling everything up is very likely. So it is correct to go take little steps, and to then broaden out everything. As long as the listener has an idea that it starts from here and then it goes further. One may also present a picture in the case, say an earthly picture, where you wish to build up a property. In that case, there is the design of the property, the picture of the design of the property, which one may refer to as the architecture, definitely. And then there's the actualization, to now put the physical thing down, so that you can now know that, oh, this is the property, maybe an estate, could be a house. So it is like the woman has that picture of what the property is, and the man is the one who, working hand in hand with the woman, is to actualize it. So not only just take the picture and keep it, but to find ways to ensure that is actualized here on earth. That is one very simple picture one may use. And there are so many others.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for clarifying that. And I've got more to ask on this point. So, dear listeners, I want to let you know you're listening to Bless Radio. This is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Aprushin. And if you wish to know about the Grail Message or have any want more information on the Grail Message, or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic that we're discussing tonight is woman and her vocation. Woman and her vocation. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1.com. If you scroll down on the homepage, you'll come across a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. We are also broadcasting on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box. Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1 there, space, Grail Message, space, woman and her vocation, which of course is the topic. So that's how you can listen to us live on YouTube from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. After the show ends, you can listen to a recording of this show also on YouTube. And you go to youtube.com and type in the search box the same words, which are Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1, space, Grail Message, space, woman and her vocation. And of course, you can listen to the recording of our previous shows also on YouTube. Thirdly, we're broadcasting on Zeno, that's ZENO.FM/radio/Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1. And there's one other announcement I would like to make. Last month, there was a public reading of the Grail Message on the topic of prayer in London. And there is now a follow-up event or workshop being held this coming Saturday. It's the same venue, which is Willesden Green Library. I'm going to just make sure I don't make any mistake. So just a moment to check that before I... Yes, so there's a workshop, again on the topic of prayer, this coming Saturday in London, where it will be held Saturday 23rd of May, 2 p.m. till 4 p.m. UK time. And the venue is Willesden Green Library. And the address is 95 High Road, London, NW10 2SF. So you're welcome to attend that. Now, let's go back to our topic, woman and her vocation. Gregory, you gave a clue that woman, you gave an example of a property where there's an architecture, or let's say a design, like a plan, and then it has to be implemented or built into the property. Let's call it a house, or let's just call it a home or house to make it easy to together. So there's a building a home there's a design which is being received, in this case by the woman, and it is to be built, and then the man is the one implementing that. That's the role that is being played. Now, some people might be saying, oh, that means woman can do one thing and the man cannot do it. No, we are not saying that. We are telling the way how these things are received and work. Yes, a man can also receive. It's not impossible for the man to receive, of course, and he can also have a design. However, we are talking about the work in creation, how we are meant to operate in this creation. So there's some principles and processes that are involved, and this the work is meant to be done in a complementary way. So one could say, oh, man can do everything, or even somebody can counter it by saying, no, woman can do everything as well. But here we're talking about working in complementary way. So that is not saying one cannot do and the other one cannot do it. No. Yes, in theory, of course, you can do it. Both can do it individually.
Sorry.
But yes, Gregory, you want to say something?
Yes. The example that nature has provided is sufficient in the case of motherhood, where the initial preparation for a soul to incarnate is done within the womb of the woman. That is a typical example. No man can do that. So even if they think they can do something, none of them. Where are the men who nature has equipped to be able to do that? None. So one only gave that example. So many can then see that the woman is engaged in the finer things, whereas the man is engaged with the coarser things. Very simple example again, as many may see, you may find that if the need is there to fashion a road from one place to the other, in which trenches have to be dug, in which stones will have to be shattered, in all naturalness, it is good that first there is a design of what needs to be done. And then subsequently, those who have the muscle will then go ahead and do the implementation in the digging, in the shattering of stones and things of that nature, and bringing them together. It will be an absurdity to stress that, oh, what a woman can do, a man can do, or what a man can do, a woman can do. For the woman who has graciously permitted, or nature has graciously permitted, to carry the individual for an incarnation. And now the individual has incarnated and is growing up, has been taken care of. You now expect her to live that role which nature has assigned and look for sledgehammer and be shattering rocks to build a path. That will be an absurdity. But if a person is intuitive enough, they themselves can perceive that which is required of them. And this idea of what a man can do, a woman can do, or what a woman can do, a man can do, these things are only mentioned, are only expressed by those who really haven't reflected deeply enough to take examples from nature, and in pursuing such a path, they block the way for others for further inclination, because there's the need. In that scenario, they want to reverse the roles, which is not supposed to be.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for that, we call it intervention and clarification. And what you gave is a clear example where nobody can argue, you can say, that, oh, man can give birth, or, a woman is the only one who gives birth. So it's clear that is the nature has designed that way, and that's the only way it works. So of course, no one can, how can I say, disagree with that. And that's a design from nature. And so you can say that was done before man or woman even could, how can I say, came up with their own thing. Nature already put that there. So thank you. Now, so yeah, what I was doing in a way, Gregory, was looking at how the things are happening on this earth in the current times. Let's say in the olden times, there was a role the woman had, let's say, to be at home and to bear the children. And but the world has sort of shifted from those times. Yes, of course she still bears the children, but she does even more nowadays than, even doing jobs that man would, in the past only men were doing, and some people may be wondering, well, let's say some people say, oh no, that's not right, women shouldn't do those roles that men did in the past only. So Gregory, let's look at that. Are there some, could say, jobs which are exclusively for men or meant to be, let's say, because we know that women are doing things what men do, and vice versa? So are there jobs which are meant exclusively for men or exclusively for women only? Yeah.
Of course, there are activities which are meant for men only, and activities which are meant for women only. That which is homely is meant for women. By home, that also includes not only the dwelling where the man and the woman live. Your town is also your home. Your state is also your home. The nation is also your home. The earth, whilst you are here on earth, is also your home. So it is the task of the woman to make wherever she resides homely, which includes her dwelling, which includes the earth, which includes the nation, wherever she resides. As such, through her radiations, she should make it homely. For it is only in the home, not necessarily from the tiny dwelling which men call home, but that intrinsic neighborhood through which many are able to perceive that which they need to accomplish without being distracted by external factors. That is what is referred to in this particular case as home. Whereas the man is to be engaged in the external factors, the woman is to be engaged in the internal factors. Those internal, like you have this, home affairs, home territory. It is internal. That is where the task, the calling of the woman is. In complementarity, the task or the calling of the man is to be engaged in the external. Although nowadays, many of these things are mixed up, but it's not helpful. For when woman is granted the opportunity to perceive intuitively, calmly in the home, then that which is supposed to be attracted from on high can be done in peace and quiet. Only when that has precipitated us within her is she able to communicate to those who need to be engaged in the externals.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for again clarifying and bringing out the activity of the female and the male, and again showing that is how complementary it is meant to be. And another point you were making there, that the way the world is, things are not following that nowadays. Now, Gregory, there's something that came earlier, which you said the woman is meant to guide, and that's how she's half a step higher. At first, I was wondering if you meant half a step higher with those who need the guidance. And then later, I was wondering if you meant half a step higher than man. I was unsure what you meant. So before I say the actual question, in the world of today, they think, there should be equality, male and female equality, not only the man and female, even within the male, human beings, there should be equality. They say all the human beings equal. And then let's say we know in the real world, there's some people with a lot of, let's say, big, significant talent, let's say, and others do not have that significant talent. And of course, those that have the talent, they are more successful with that talent. Now, I just want to go back one step again about, looking at man and woman, and where you were talking about the woman guiding and being half a step higher. Can you please just clarify or expand on that and say, are you saying that the woman is half a step higher than the man, or it was something else you were referring to?
First and foremost, the need is there to look at these pictures very intuitively. In the first instance, when people view things, they assume that the man and the woman are equal. But what nature has presented, the picture nature has presented, is that the man is complementary to the woman. complementarity is not the same thing as equality. Impossible. So the picture which they themselves have formed intellectually is wrong. For when you hear that they are equal, ask them, show us the man who is able to carry the child for 9 months. None. So that doesn't hold at all. But when it is said they are complementary, that holds, because nature has already presented that picture. The discussion one put forward that the woman is able to guide. Maybe one should beef it up. Before you do any implementation of something, you must have an initial concept. You must have a design. Like you do when you want to put up a structure, you must have a picture. Of course, there are others who just put up structures without having a picture, which subsequently collapses. That picture is finer. That picture is more like a representation of that which needs to be actualized. That picture is more like a model which needs to be actualized in real life here on earth. That finer sensing is, by nature, by the laws of creation, that finer sensing is with the woman. And therefore, because that finer sensing is with her, her vibrations are much finer to be able to perceive this. Vibrations which are much finer are superior to the vibrations which are denser. Because the vibrations are able to pick the sensitivities out there. And because they are able to pick out the sensitivities, just like you have a phone, which so-called modern phones, which is able to pick out the vibrations out there, like a radio receiver. In that particular scenario, you find the higher the frequency, the more it's able to receive. And then subsequently, those higher frequencies are modulated down. Here we have in our discussions, you will find that the vibrations from one place to the other, if you look out, you can't hear anything, you can't see anything, but it goes through a channel and the phone is able to now receive of those vibrations, and subsequently it is converted into something meaningful. So one can already see the picture that for things to be able to manifest completely in a particular environment, on the one hand, there's the receiving, and on the other hand, there is the other part that does the manifestation to make sense out of it. So in that particular simple picture,
We want to thank everybody who...
Hello?
Apologies. Sorry. Apologies for that. Please carry on.
In that particular scenario, one can already sense how the woman is able to receive and pass on the pictures she has received to the man who makes it earthly. That reception is internal. And in some administrations, you hear of home secretary, home affairs, home this, home that. It is that picture, that intuitive picture, that one should hold on to. So, again, it must be stressed. Complementarity is not the same thing as equality. For that which is complementary, when it's joined with the others, is able to make it manifest and make it whole. That is the picture that is being presented. And that's the task of the woman. For in her activities, being able to receive from afar, that gives an impression that she's a bit higher than those who do not have that innate ability to be able to perceive from afar.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for this. Again, the picture you're painting for us, which is, how could I say, quite requires some sort of effort on our side to recognize there's a fineness. You know, when you look at activity, we look, let's say, very much from the earthly angle, which is not the full picture. It's only one angle. And there's really a much wider picture that needs to be considered and to be recognized. We say we live on earth, but it would be better to say we live in creation. Yes, we live on the earth, but that's not the full picture. We need to recognize that we live in creation, which is more than just the earth. And if that is what we realize, if that's what we recognize, that is the world, creation is really the true world that we live in, then we need to know what is this creation. What is the activity in this creation? And our role is, yes, there's something to do on the earth for sure, but our role as human beings, whether male or female, involves creation. So that needs to be, that requires a recognition to come to that understanding. And then one will wonder, what is in creation? What is our role in creation? And Gregory, you've been telling us that or sharing that with us. But it requires some effort and come to realize that this is what it is. If we just become only one-sided in our way of seeing things, then we are not going to know the true picture of this activity in creation. In fact, every week in our topic discussion, we always have to refer to the context of nature, that we are operating in this framework of the world built by nature, working with nature. And when we look in our dictionary, it is only earthly definitions, you can say, which are narrow. So that's what, how can I say, there's a big gap there in our understanding due to this limit. Somehow we have narrowed ourselves in our thinking and appreciation of this world. So thanks very much, Gregory, for highlighting and bringing this out. That this activity that we are talking about of the male man and then the female, which is woman, of the human being, it is in creation, not just the earth. Now, okay, I just want to remind the listeners, you're listening to Blessed Radio, and this is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message, by Aprushin. If you wish to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic that we're discussing tonight is woman and her vocation. Woman and her vocation. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can text, WhatsApp, text, call, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 00447939641958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1.com. And then if you scroll down on the home page, you'll come across a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. We are also broadcasting on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box, Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1 there, space, Grail Message, space, the topic, which is woman and her vocation. And after the show ends, which is 8 p.m. UK time, you can listen to a recording of this show also on YouTube. And you type the same words in the search box, which are Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1 there, space, Grail Message, space, woman and her vocation. And of course, you can listen to the recording of our previous shows also on YouTube. Thirdly, we're broadcasting on Zeno, that's ZENO.FM/radio/Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1 there. And one other announcement I would like to make, which is that there is going to be a follow-up workshop on the topic of prayer, which is going to be held in London this Saturday, which is 23rd of May, from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. UK time. It will be held at Willesden Green Library, which is at 95 High Road, London, NW10 2SF. That's a workshop on the topic of prayer this coming Saturday in London. Now, Gregory, we've talked about one of the important role of woman is motherhood. That's one of the role. And you also mentioned about guidance. Now, let's say the way the world has, functions, or it considers important, at least let's say until recent times, the main role of the woman was to be like a wife, a partner to the man, and bringing up the children, meaning the being motherhood, wife and mother. I know the world has moved on, and a woman takes on much more than just that in today's world. In fact, we even have single mothers doing everything. So that's really quite incredible. So my question on this now, Gregory, is the woman fulfilling her role that that is intended for her, or is there something not right? Is that the role that she has been fulfilling, motherhood and being partner to the husband and so on, which is still happening, I say, and then she's doing other things on top in today's world. So is the woman, Gregory, fulfilling her role?
Well, it depends on what her activities are. If her activities are such that she's able to mediate and guide others in accordance with the reference framework, which is in accordance to the laws of creation, then you will find in that particular scenario, many persons, men or women, are likely to go towards her to learn, because in that particular role she plays, in her guidance, in her quietness, and above all, in the purity which she harbors within herself, you'll find many a person will move towards her in order to learn. If, however, her activities are divisive, her activities are not complementary, her activities are not of benefit, not only to her, but to others, then that role which nature, which creation had assigned to her by granting her more sensitivity, that role is therefore not fulfilled. For strictly speaking, to whom much had been granted through nature, through creation, much is thereby expected.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for showing us that what is required, you can say, in fulfilling the role of woman. Again, you have pointed to that woman. Let's stick to the woman for now. The role has to be in fulfillment to the desire, the task assigned by nature or creation for a woman. Yes, we know that human beings have free will. Woman has free will, man has free will. So they can decide to do their own will. And however, we've been told there is God's will. There's, you could say, if I can put it, maybe nature's will, the way nature intends things to be, or creation, how creation intends us to be. So there could be a clash when we apply our will, or woman applies her will, when it considered in regards to the nature or creation or God's will. So that, now Gregory, what you have been pointing out, all up to right now in the whole discussion, let's say one can perceive some of that, let's say if they through observation, how creation works, how nature works, but then, as I say, we have our own free will and we can follow our own path, and so there's a danger of going astray, and how can I say, I'm going, let me not go too far away. So now, maybe how can we be aware what if we are going astray? Let me say it that way. Is it by just observing the consequences that something goes wrong? How can we be aware, Gregory, if we're doing things, in this case we're talking about woman really, so where woman goes astray from the goal or aim assigned by creation or nature?
There are several ways, or basically 3 different ways. First, an intuitive sensing. Also, a sensing in thoughts. And finally, a representation in deeds. The deeds which are perceptible to the 5 senses are only the final precipitations which have taken place. For that woman who keeps her intuitive perceptions pure is able very quickly to perceive that which is not in order. Why? Because in accordance with the laws of nature, of creation, there is the reciprocal activity. The reciprocal activity brings to the person who did the initiation that which had been put in creation. So, from an intuitive level, if you have the personality is alert and vigilant enough, it's able to pick it, even before it comes to the thought level. Aside of that, if the individual is unable to pick it and it gets to the thought level, many a time the thoughts will be such that they weigh the individual down. That being the case, that is an indication. And finally, when one refers to that which is perceptible to the 5 senses in deeds, one is able to now find out that these structures, these deeds which have been put in place, which are perceptible, are not helpful to the individual. But many a time the deeds do not show themselves for quite some time. at which time it may be very, very late. Therefore, it is advisable, like it is found in the walk in the light of truth, the Grail Message of Abdushin, when it's advised to keep the hearts of your thoughts pure. By so doing, that individual will bring peace and harmony and most likely progress. For the heart of one's thoughts, that is where the intuitions come in. Ensure you hold them in purity. That heart is like a home, for it is the home as a concept, which when considered in an earthly fashion is like the dwelling. This time, the dwelling within the woman who is able to perceive from afar, right from paradise, the paradise of man, where the human spirit gem set out as an unconscious spirit seed grain in through its experiences outside of the paradise, is able to mature. In that process of maturing, a woman, the female sex, is able to perceive the niceties, the blessings that stream out of paradise. Like an antenna, she's able to receive this. And that being the case, she's able to show the man who faces the outside to deal with the challenges, whereas her task is to keep that source, that home and heart pure. In that purity, there will be the attraction of homogeneity, that which is pure, that which is noble. It is that nobleness, that pureness, that many a man looks forward to the woman in respect, hoping that she maintains that which is pure, that which is noble. That gives the man who deals with the challenges, the external challenges, the strength which he is able to draw in calmness to face these challenges in order to implement, to actualize that which has been perceived. So when one looks at it, the will that has woven this into creation had a purpose, and that purpose is in accordance with the reference framework which had been hewn into creation, and it's this same reference framework that human personality in creation, or all that exists in creation, in the world of matter and also on earth, it is through this reference framework, these laws of creation, that all came into existence and will mature.
Thanks very much again, Gregory, for explaining the working of woman in this creation, in accordance, you could say, with God's will, which we human beings need to recognize, understand, and follow. And the intuition is the key to open the door to this path. It's something we have to sense. It can't just be taught, do this and do that, like a child is taught. Then they copy that, what they're taught. We need to apply ourselves using our abilities, one of the ability being the intuition, and sensing the route or the path we have to take, which is, again, I repeat, it requires quite some effort, especially when you have been following some, let's say, wrong direction for so long. So thanks again, Gregory, for pointing the way that we need to walk. Now, Gregory, again, going to you could say, the role and the activity on earth of woman and man, like you have pointed out, this woman and man, they work complementarily, complementing each other. Which of course it makes sense, but let me see. Yeah, I'm going to go into a slightly different sort of angle now, Gregory. Let's say, and I know this is looking on the physical aspect, but in any case, let us just look at it. So on this earth, Gregory, woman, she, how can I say, looks beautiful and, does makeup and all sort of like fashion type of things. She's attracted by that somehow, more than the man. And one wonders, Gregory, is that vanity, or is that woman expressing herself in you could say, in a natural way? I don't know if I can use that word, but maybe I can say that. So let me repeat what I'm saying there. So, Gregory, on the earth, when woman expresses herself, you could say, let's say through beauty, which is dressing, fashion, outwardly like that. Is she meant to, let's say, be more humble, or is that vanity when she does this way of expressing?
The woman has the capabilities through her intuition, through her thoughts, to be able to perceive what exists in the nearest neighborhood in her environment. That means when she opens up herself, she's able to pick up things from her nearest neighborhood, her environment. The thought switch also linger around everywhere. And the intuitions which also linger around. She is also able, in purity, to pick up the noble thoughts from on high, which thoughts are mediated by those who stand higher than herself. Now you find that many a woman here on earth decides which one she wishes to pick. whether that which is that high, which strives after purity, or the common ones which are available in our neighborhoods, which contains so much. Sometimes you have a combination of both, which many a time produces a type of caricature. All these are a result of the ethereal environment in which she is in. But again, each one has the free will to decide which or what they wish to attract to themselves. So there are variations, whether they call it beauty or not. That is dependent on whom the observer is. If it is that which is of purity, before too long, these will manifest in accordance with their nature. If, however, it is not of purity, or things which have been picked around in the neighborhoods, in the nearest ethereal neighborhood, in which there are terrible thoughts or terrible things happening, then these things will manifest. How people classify and categorize it is dependent on their own nature. So when beauty is mentioned and you hear, oh, depends on this person, depends on that person, and it depends basically on where the individual has drawn its examples from. There are in some countries where you have everything which has been put out there is artificial. Many hold on to it because they like it. There are in some countries in which, or maybe in the same countries, in which many refuse to pick up those things which subsequently are detrimental to their health, not only to their physical health, but also their mental health, and again to their intuition and thoughts. Those ones are able to escape the Sodom and Gomorrah, which has been created in thoughts, in deeds, here on earth. So it all varies.
Thanks again, Gregory, so much for this answer. What I picked up is that we must act, or woman must act, because the topic's about woman, that's the reason I'm saying that. Woman must act in purity. This must be the, how can I say, the atmosphere, if I can say that word, around us, that thoughts surround, this is what must surround us when we are making decisions and reflecting on whatever we wish to do. Now, Greg, there's a word you use there, which I just want to, let's say, get clarification. You use this word, ethereal world. And people may be wondering what that world, ethereal world, is. So can you help us what you mean by that?
What one is referring to is that environment which is not available to the five senses, which is beyond the five senses. A very simple example, even in the world of matter, is one's thoughts. Do people see thoughts? Do they hold thoughts in their hands? But thoughts exist. And the effects of thoughts can be felt by people And these thoughts can have an impact on the behavior of many. So the nearest one may refer to is the world of thoughts, which is, in quotes, ethereal. But there are different gradations as you go along, as things, if you do it the reverse way, as things precipitate, before you now have, even in the world of matter, you now have that which is earthly. You have different gradations. Many are advised to examine the work in the light of truth, for that is the purpose of these discussions, where they themselves can understand, can examine, can weigh, and come to a finer and better conclusion than the summary and the little references which are made in these discussions.
Thanks for that explanation there, Gregory. I want listeners, you're listening to Bless Radio, and this is the Spiritual Discussion Program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Uprishin. If you wish to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic that we're discussing tonight is woman and her vocation. Woman and her vocation. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK phone number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. If you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. There's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is blessradio1, that's the number one, .com. If you scroll down on the homepage, you'll come across a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. We are also broadcasting on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box. Bless Radio 1, that's the number one, space, Grail Message, space, woman and her vocation, which is our topic for tonight. And then after this show ends, which is 8 p.m. UK time, you can listen to a recording of this show also on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the same words in the search box, which are Bless Radio 1, that's the number one, space, Grail Message, space, woman and her vocation. And of course, you can listen to the recording of our past shows as well on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno, that's ZENO.fm/radio/bless radio 1. That's the number one there. And one more thing I want to add, make an announcement, which is this coming Saturday in London, there's an event, it's a workshop on the topic of prayer in London. And that's the venue, the date is Saturday, 23rd of May. It is from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. And the venue is Willesden Green Library, which is 95 High Road, London, NW10 2SF. And one thing I forgot to mention, that the meeting room is on the second floor, and I believe it is called Education Room. I must admit I wasn't able to double check that, but I know the room is on the second floor of the library, Willesden Green Library. So just be aware if you are attending. Let's see. I know, Gregory, we talked about woman being, let's say, half a step higher than man, and we need to understand in the right context, because people can get worked up about things. Human beings are equal and all that. We've tried to or emphasize the need to understand that the way nature has, you could say, designed us for a particular task, which we are serving, which we are meant to fulfill in this creation. Yes, each of us has our own mind and own thinking about every situation, which is fine. However, as Gregory, you say many times, there's a context that we must be aware of or take into account. We don't just live on this earth and in our own little world, let's say with family and friends and so on. No, there is this, earth is in a universe, or an even better word is creation. And we are, human beings are creatures. So one of the, you could say, beings that lives in creation. Even though we have free will, there is a task that we are meant to fulfill. So, and that requires understanding of this world of creation. So all this, you could say, we are not really taught it in the school or parents and so on. We have to discover it. And it's a self-discovery in a way, through observing, through experiencing. And so, as I said, Gregory, we all have our views and thinking. But then the point is that thinking or views, does it align with the real world that we are living in? Or it is just an opinion only? And of course, if something is not, let's say, in line with reality, we shouldn't be surprised when, let's say, we hit our head against the wall and we get injured, and we are thinking, why is this happening? It must be something we're not doing right. So, and it's not only the physical world that we need to, which we are familiar with, that exists. There is more than just the physical. So all this, how can I say, needs to be realized. And Greg, you pointed out our intuition that we've been given. We're meant to use that ability to, you could say, examine these matters, to get the right, let's say, clarity about it. Now, actually, what I'm going to do is, a couple of people have written some words, I'm going to say, and I just thought I would share them. So let me do that. This is from a lady called Harriet Hoppe, who shares with us regularly on the radio show with her comments and questions. So this is what she has written. human. That's a tough yes in today's environment. Where should we start? Having been fast as shuttle on the breeding merry-go-round for so long now, that even women no longer has any idea, woman has no longer any idea of what her vocation in life is actually meant to be. Where should she start? Is it simply to anchor herself or themselves in motherhood, which albeit in itself is also a high calling when lived aright? But what then of those who are not physically blessed to bear or even want to bring children into the world? Where then shall they find their vocation? If it comes to that, who actually knows what woman really is? Never mind what her vocation in the earthly, let alone the spiritual sense of the words are meant to illuminate. So, Gregory, when I read these words, Mrs. Hoppe is sort of reflecting the way the world is. And also she is making like a pointer that, okay, motherhood is a role of womanhood at some point, in some, how can I say, in an important way, that is true. And yet, there's also a spiritual, let me say, sense or aspect that the word womanhood is supposed to reflect. So there's a spiritual aspect of womanhood. Now, Greg, could you just say something about that?
That's which you yourself just mentioned, the spiritual aspect. One has been stressing all this while, and the complementarity, the passive way in which she receives and then passes it on to the man in working hand in hand with the man in brightening up her environment, that means ennobling her environment. For wherever you have ennoblement, many will strive towards that which has been ennobled. Therefore, once you have that scenario in which an environment has been ennobled, many a human soul will strive to reach that. And as this ennoblement goes higher and higher, that sort of, as if there's an attraction which sucks the individual upwards. There are other expressions which one may use, but for now it suffices just to use that word, that attraction due to ennoblement. More, the individual may have to or will have to examine the work in the light of truth, where more precise expressions will be granted. And as long as the individual weighs and examines thoroughly, many a path will be opened.
Thanks very much for that, Gregory. There's another person who shared something which is relevant for our tonight's program, and asked if that was okay for the permission to read out their contribution. So this person, his name is JD, and that's his initials, Onyeze. Or I think it's a shortened version of his first name, if I'm correct. So anyway, it's JDM Onyeze. So he's written this, and I'll read it out. It says, "Dear woman, the Almighty Creator placed you half a step above the man, that you should be a spiritual helper and guide to him and to your offsprings. So seeking to be equal with man is actually a diminishing and belittling of yourself. Most sadly is the fact that you have not only fallen below the man that you are naturally placed above, but you have fallen below other creatures on earth. You often wonder why there is a heavier backlash towards you whenever you do something that man also does. But he receives a lesser backlash than you do. This is because to whom much is given, much more is required. I sincerely wish that today's woman on earth would rather fight the darkness whom she succumbed to, retake back her lost position, and begin to fulfill her God-given task on earth, rather than see the man as her competition. You will see how the man would naturally look up to you, support and protect you, and treat you as the delicate, precious jewel the Almighty Creator made you to be. May true womanhood arise again. Amen." Gregory, anything you'd like to say on these words?
Nothing really. For many to understand such expressions are right, the need is there to have started gradually. Because you'll find there are some key expressions there, and only when little steps are taken to arrive at a higher pedestal, only then will it make a lot of sense. Even the intuition which is referred to, even the complementarity which is also discussed, it must be absorbed gradually, examined, weighed by looking at things outside and looking deep within themselves. Only then can there be a measure of some progress.
Thank you very much, Gregory. Listeners, I just want to share with you that as of course the aim of the show is to introduce you and to point you to the direction of the Grail Message in the Light of Truth by Abrushin, and there is a lecture in the Grail Message which is the inspiration for this topic tonight, and it's the same, exactly the same words as our topic tonight. It is woman and her vocation. Now, in my mind, I would like to share something from this lecture, but it's quite tough, if I'm honest, to do that. But I feel I'd like to share something. So I'm going to start somewhere, which is at basically the end of the lecture. You could call it maybe a conclusion of the lecture, but I think I will do that. I've been thinking twice about it, but I feel I will just start with that, even though it's the conclusion of the lecture. So, this is again, listeners, from the Grail Message in the Light of Truth by Abrushin, and the lecture is called Woman and Her Vocation, and I'm reading the last part of it. You girls and you women, you must first of all remember that you are the bearers in this creation of the highest tasks with which God has endowed you. Neither marriage nor motherhood are your highest goal. As you stand aright, how ridiculous and disgusting is readily and even unconditionally submitted. Every nonsensical creation thrown onto the market for the sake of money making by the fashion designers, you seized like an animal to which tidbits are thrown. You will live to recognize the disgrace contained in this, even in the reception you gave to the sometimes quite questionable aberrations from the concept of true beauty, not to mention purity at all. Purity has always been soiled in these matters with an impudence that could not be further increased. Years afterwards, you will still blush with shame at the recognition of how deep you really sank in this respect. What is still worse is the conscious and deliberate exposure of the body, which should be sacred to everyone, as fashion so often demands. Only the basest form of vanity could cause woman to sink to such a depth. And this vanity, which has long since been proverbially associated with woman, is but the abominable caricature of the effect womanhood should really have in accordance with the divine laws. Man, however, is just as guilty as woman. It is only necessary for him to show contempt for such things, and woman would soon stand aside, solitary and ashamed, even if her first reaction was unjust anger. But instead, man welcomed the fall of woman, because she therewith corresponded more nearly to the weaknesses and desires which he had already carried within himself, increased to a state of morbidity by the Luciferian idea. Woman can never fulfill her vocation on earth while she has any vanity, which always involves shamelessness, but only through that grace with which she alone is endowed as the most beautiful spiritual gift. Every look, every movement, every word of a woman must bear the stamp of her nobility of soul. Therein lies her task, as well as her power and her greatness. Develop yourselves and take advice in these matters so as to let that become genuine which you now seek to substitute with base vanity. It is grace which holds your earthly power. It is grace which you must cultivate and use. Grace, however, cannot be contemplated without purity. The very word in its conception directs thought and mind towards purity and the heights. It has a commanding, inviolable, and sublime effect. Grace makes the woman. Grace alone holds true beauty for every age and every physical form, for it makes everything beautiful, because it is the expression of a pure spirit from which it issues. Grace, however, must not be confused with the physical litheness which originates in the animistic. It is thus that you shall and must stand in creation. Therefore become spiritually free within yourselves, you women and girls. The woman who is content to live merely as a mother in her life on earth has missed her real purpose and vocation. Dear listeners, that is the end of this is a reading that I have read from the lecture Woman and Her Vocation from the Grail Message in the Light of Truth by Abrushin. And if you wish to find out more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And hope you've enjoyed the discussion tonight on the topic of woman and her vocation. I'm just going to ask Gregory now, anything you'd like to say to the listeners to say goodbye?
Wishing listeners a very beautiful week ahead.
Thank you. Same from me, listeners. Have a beautiful week ahead. We'll be back as usual next Tuesday from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time with another topic for discussion. I wish you, again, a beautiful week and good night